Hello everyone, welcome back. In the previous episode, we have learned about loops. Loops helps us to repeat some same task multiple times without writing the same code again and again. That makes our program much more shorter, cleaner, and more efficient. But today we are going to solve a different problem. Imagine you are writing a program that display a welcome message. Later in the program, you need to display the same message again somewhere else. You need it again, maybe a few more times later in the exam. What most beginner do, they simply copy the code and paste it everywhere. The program becomes huge. The as the problem continue to increase, it will become harder to read as codes become very large. So professional programmers avoid this following one by following this one simple principle. Write once, use many times. And that's exactly today's topic is all about functions. Functions allows us to write a block of code once and give it a name and execute it whenever we will need it. They help us to build programs that are clean, organized, and easy to understand and much easier to maintain. By the end of this video, you will be able to create your own function, send data to them, receive result back, and write code like a professional Python developer. So let's begin. So here our today's lesson plan. We will begin with understanding why functions are needed. Then we will understand what function actually is. After that, we will go with syntax of function. Then we will learn how to call them, how the parameter and arguments works, how the return value works, the difference between the local and the global variable, and the useful built-in function. And finally, we will create our own user-defined functions through practical programs. We will use the lessons with common beginner we will try to use the PPT to understand the common beginner mistakes and some practice question and a complete revision. By the end of the revision, we will have a solid foundation in one of the most important concept of Python. So let's understand why functions are needed. So imagine you are writing a Python program, and every time the program starts, you want to display a welcome message. Without function, your code is something like print welcome to Python, learn Python step by step. Means you will repeat again and again the same code multiple times. Let me show you how will it looks. So basically, you can see that you are writing again and again and again same things, which is not the program is perfectly correct, but it produces as expected output also. But we need to write the code multiple times, which is not a good. Your program becomes unnecessarily long. So there comes suppose you also tomorrow you also want to print the same message again. We need to do a multiple times for achieving the answer. So if we forgot even once time, the program will become inconsistent. This repeated code is called code duplication. The professional programmer always try to avoid this. Instead, they write the repeated code only once, place it inside a function, and whenever they needed it, they will use the function, simply call the function. And the message ever changes, you can edit the function in one places, and every function automatically got the update. This saves time, reduces mistakes, and makes our code much easier to maintain. Now let's look at this idea into real life examples. Look at the example shown on the slide. Think of a TV remote. When you press the volume button up, the television programs perform many operations behind the scene. It receives a signal, processes it, changes the values, update the display. But you will need to know how all those steps work. You simply press one button. Now think about a calculator. When you press a square root button, the calculator performs several mathematical operations internally. Again, we don't need to know the mathematical formula by yourself. We can just let the system do its work. The same idea applies with ATM. When you press withdraw button, enter the amount, the ATM checks your balance, verifies your PIN, update the bank balance database, and finally dispense the cash. Or think of a coffee machine the same way. You press a button and the machine grinds the coffee beans, heats the water, brews the coffee, pours it into your cup, and once the one simple operation triggers many operations. Functions exactly work the same way. A single function can execute many lines of code. Instead of writing those instructions repeatedly, we simply call the functions we needed. So, what exactly is function? So, function is a reusable block of code designed to perform one specific task. This is a function as this helps the function as a small helper inside your program. Each helper has one responsibility. One helper prints the message, another prints the calculates the area, and checks whether number is odd or even. Another find the largest value. Whenever you need to do a particular task, you simply ask the appropriate helper to do it. You don't need to create new helper every time. That's exactly how the function help us to do. Function allows us to divide large programs into smaller and manageable pieces. Instead of writing one massive code, we can simply write functions containing multiple lines of codes and divide it. This makes our program much easier to understand, test, and improve. Let's look at the execution lifecycle shown on the slide. Everything begins with the main program. At the same point, the main program needs a particular task to be completed. So it's called a function. Control is separately transferred to that function. The Python execute all the statement inside the function. Once the task is finished, the function return back to the main function, and the execution of the program as continues. You will see the process happening live when we will start writing functions in later in this video. Now let's look at six big advantage of using functions. So first big advantage is code reusability. You write your code once and use it whenever you need it. The second advantage is cleaner code. So in cleaner code, functions remove unnecessary repetitions, making program much more easier to read. The third advantage is easy maintenance. If you discover a bug or you want to improve your logic, you only need to update the function once. Every place where the function is used automatically benefits from the change. The fourth advantage is better code organization. And the fifth is less repetition. And this is one of the most important software principles, DRY, which stand for don't repeat yourself. Professional programmers follow the principle in the almost every project. Finally, the debugging becomes much easier. Instead of checking hundreds lines of code, you can just test one function at a time, making it much more easier to understand and fix the problem. So whenever you notice yourself writing the same code again and again, stop the movement and ask yourself, can this become a function? Most of the time the answer will be yes. That completes the foundation of today's lesson. In the next part, we will move with coding. So for the coding, it's time to start our own functions. There is where programming starts to become much more interesting. So let's begin with general syntax of Python, which is on the screen. You can see. Don't worry if you think it's like kind of messy. It's new. We will understand it one by one. So let's understand with the first word. So first word is def. Def stands for define. Whenever Python uses the word Whenever Python uses the words def, you immediately understand, okay, the programmer wants to create a new function. So every user defined function always start with the keyword def. Without it, Python won't know that you are using a function. Now comes the function name. Here is the function called the function name. This is the function. Here is def, then the function name. This is simply the name we give to our function. Just like the variable have names, function also needs name. Choose names that clearly describe the functions. For example, if you want to print a function that prints that greets the user, so a good name will be greet dash user. If you want to calculate the area, then calculate area will be great name for the function. Meaningful names for make the program much more easier to understand. Now notice the small braces here. These are called parentheses. Every functions includes parentheses. Even if there is no data inside them, later in the next lesson we will place parameters inside this parentheses. Now it's simply remained it's empty. Next, look carefully at the colon. here, which is extremely important. It tells Python everything below here belongs to the function. Same like loop, same like if and else clause. The it also has colon, which does the same work. If without colon, it will give a syntax error. So never forget it. Now notice something else. The function inside the statement inside the function block is slightly moving forward, which is again the indentation. Python uses indentation instead of curly braces. Usually we intend four spaces. Every thing that belongs to the function must have the same indentation. The one line has different spacing. Python become confused and raises the indentation error. So indentation isn't just for making codes look nice. In Python, it's actually a part of language syntax. And now look at the last line, this Python dash name. So this is called function calling. Create a function and calling a functions are two different things. Defining a function simply store it in the memory. Calling it actually runs it. This is one of the most important ideas beginners need to understand. Now let's write our first program. So for that we will use the word def, going with greet, print, welcome to Python. So here we are calling the function greet, and here it runs. Welcome to Python. Now let's understand what's actually happening here. So before Python starts reading from the top, Python, the very first line, def greet. Many beginners think Python immediately print the message, but that's not what happened. When Python sees the def keyword, it simply create the functions, store it in the memory, and remember it. If someone calls greet, it executes this block of code which is inside of the function itself. Notice the Python does not execute the print statement yet. It simply stores the function. Then Python continues reading the next line. Nothing is printed. When we uses the word greet, it's printed. After finishing, it returned back to the main program. So the output becomes welcome to Python. This is shown beautifully in the execution flow on the slide. Let me show you the slide. So step one, Python reads you can see Python reads the functions. You can see it here. So step one, function Python reads the function definition and store it in the memory. Then step two, Python encounters the functions call and jumps into the memory. And after that, step three, the Python executes the statement inside the function and returns to the main program. Remember this sequence because every function works in the exactly same way. Now here's an experiment. Now let's comment out the functions call. Now, what do you think? What will happen? Many beginners think that expect to appear. Many beginners expect that the message will appear, but when we run the program, nothing happens. Absolutely nothing. So, what is the reason? Because we only define the function here. We have never called it. A function only runs when it is called. This is the most beginner common friendly mistake. Now, let's see the real power of function. Instead of calling the function once, let's call it thrice. Let's copy and paste it three times. Now, as we know, during our first call, it just printed once. Now, when we click run, you can see the process repeated thrice, and you can see on the output screen that it is being printed three times. But if I executed three different times, imagine if you wanted this message 50 times without function, what you use? We can to print this 50 times without function. You simply write using a greet inside a loop, so it will print 50 times. And why function saves so much time? Because it make our program much easier to maintain. This is exactly what a slide key takeaway says. Instead of rewriting same code repeatedly, define it once and call it whenever you want to need when you need it. Now that we know how to create a function and call a function, let's make our that make our function more useful. So far, our function always print the same message, no matter how many times we call it. The output never change. But what if we want to greet different person? Instead of writing "Hey, welcome to Python," let's print hello and the name of the person, like hello Alice, hello Bob, hello Rahul, or anything. Should we create a separate function of every should we create a code for every person? No, of course not. Instead, we will pass the information into the function. The information passed is using parameters. So let's write our first program with parameter. Def greet name colon print hello comma name hashtag calling the argument greet user greet. Now let's carefully understand what's happening here. So here you can see the name the variable is called a parameter. A parameter acts like an empty container. It waits for the value to arrive. When someone calls the function, that value is placed inside the parameter. And now look inside the function call, which is called greet Alice. Python takes the word Alice and now place it inside the variable name. So the inside the function, this statement becomes hello printed hello Alice, and the Python execute the second function called greet Bob, and this time the name becomes hello Bob. Notice something interesting. We wrote the functions only once, but it produced different outputs simply because we supplied different values. This makes our functions much more flexible and reusable. Let's understand the flow on the slide. Step 1. Here we pass an argument. Then, for example, Alice. Step 2. Python receives that values inside the parameter called name. Step 3. The functions uses the value and produces the output. Every functions with parameter follow exactly the same process. Now let's clear up one of the our biggest beginner confusion. Parameter and argument are not the same thing. They are closely related but are of completely different meanings. Now look at the code. Print sorry, this code. Yeah. So basically, here the name is the parameter, and because it is written inside the function definition, think parameter as a placeholder. It's like an empty box receiving something. Now look at Rahul. It's called argument. An argument is the actual value that we send into the functions. Here an easy way to remember it. A parameter lives inside the function's definition, and an argument lives inside the function call. Let's use a real life example to explain you. Imagine you order a pizza online. The restaurant has an empty order form. The box labeled customer name is like a parameter. When you type your name, the actual name becomes an argument. The form stays the same every time, but the value change depending on the customer. Exactly the same thing happens in Python. The parameter never changes, but a different argument can be supplied every time the function is called. So remember this simple sentence: parameter equals placeholders and arguments equals the actual value. If you remember this, you will never confuse them again. Now let's talk about multiple parameters. Now suppose we want functions to work in more than one values. So, one value, that's possible. We simply use multiple parameters separated by commas. For that, let me show you the code. Hashtag function with two parameter, def add a comma b, print a plus b. Add 10 comma 20. Now let's see how Python execute this. First, the function is called, nothing happens. The Python receives add 10 and 20. uh, ये क्या हो गया 10 comma 20. The first argument is 10, which is assigned to A, and the second argument 20, which is assigned to B. Now the function execute print sum A plus B. Since A is 10, B is 20, Python calculates it as 10 plus 20, which is 30. And finally, the output becomes 30. The process explained, you can see on the slide. Values are passed, received by the parameter, processed inside the function, and finally the result is displayed. Let's try another code. Now A becomes 50 and B becomes 25, and the Python will print sum is 125. Notice we didn't change the function at all. We just changed the arguments. Now here the beauty of parameters. One function can work with unlimited set of data. Before we finish, let's summarize today's till today. A parameter is a variable written in a function definition. An argument is the actual value passed during the function call. A function can have one parameter, multiple parameter, or even no parameter. And every time we call the function, Python matches each argument with its corresponding parameter in order. So far, our functions have displayed results on the screen using print, and it's worked perfectly fine. But in the real world programming, simply displaying information isn't enough. Sometimes we don't want to immediately show the answer. Instead, we want to save it for another time, use it for another calculation, or send it to another function. That's where the most important keyword comes in, the return keyword. If you understand the return properly, you will be able to understand it. So let me show you with first with example. I think I'm not the coding or f square x colon return x plus x enter result equals to square 5 int. Let's understand this program step by step. Now Python starts by reading the function def function square x, just like before. The function is already stored in the memory. Nothing is being printed. Next, when Python reaches result equals to a square of 5. Now here Python calls the function. Here, as you can see, this is calling the function. So the value 5 is being passed as parameter to x. Inside the function, the 5 calculates as normal. So here 5 into 5, which is 25. Which now something different happens. Instead of printing the answer, this return statement moves everything back to here as a result of this, and everything got stored into result. The key and there, so on this line, a result equals to a square of 5 becomes a result equals to 25. Now the value stored in result is actually 25. So after that, when Python prints the value, it's become result equals to 25. Now look at the memory flow shown on the slide. You can see there are very simple three steps. First, the Python evaluates a square root of 5. Then the function returns 25. Then the value is stored inside the variable results. That's exactly how returns works. Now here's an important point. When Python executes a return statement, the function immediately stops. No statement returns no statements after the return words is being executed. So let me show you with an example. So moving that def demo print line 1 return print line 2. What's happening here? The first print statement execute, then Python reaches the return statement. So during when the Python reaches return statement, it's directly terminates the program. After that means everything before return statement is being executed. After the return statement is being used, everything after return statement is being terminated. So only line 1 is being printed when we will print it. You can see only line 1 is being printed. So because it is very this is very useful in larger programs. Now let's move to print and return function. Now many beginners thinks that both are same, but they serve completely different purposes. Now let's understand the difference. Imagine if I write def add a plus b print a plus b. Now I call the value equals to add 10 comma 20 and printing value so here many beginners will expect the value will contain 30 when we try to run. What's happening? Oh, it's a, oh, it's a parameter, so it where will be like this? No, it will run. So basically, many things that 30 will contain the value will be contained in 30. Then that's not happening here. Let's see why. When the functions print on the screen, but after printing the function ends, since no return statement is being used or the none is being passed back. So the line becomes value equals to none, which causes to print the value of value as none. Now the output is none, as this may surprise many beginners. Now let's improve the function by returning, oh, to return this, return. Now you can see the value is being added, and after the value is being added, the function sends 30 back to the caller, which is stored inside the value. Now we can display it, store it, multiply it, compare it, or do anything else with the value. So basically we are here printing value of a 30. Now that's why many programmers prefer return statement whenever a function need to be used. Now, simply, the simple rule to remember this: print is used when we want to show the information to the user, and return is used when we want to when we want the program to use the information later. Means print is basically to show the user what is being the output is being displayed, and return is used for the program itself for later use. So always use return when program needs for later execution. Now let's understand another very important concept, which is variable scope. So scope simply means where a variable can be accessed. Now look at this program, def my function x equals to 10, print inside my function print x. Now let's execute it. So Python enters the functions. Inside the functions, it creates a variable x, x equals to 10, and then it prints x equals to 10. Although this is no, it will work. All uh-huh. X equals to print x, and it should run. Why it's not? Because x is not defined. So for that, let me just define the x equals to x. How will it work? So basically, I am not able to show you in the online compiler. Basically, what will I'm trying to explain here. So when we execute Python, the inside of the function will be displayed. So this will display what it will display. So it will display inside and 10. And when it comes to print x, it will show a name error. So this happens because x was created inside the function. Variable created inside a function is called local variable. A local variable only exists inside a function. So basically it only exists in this. The value variable disappears whenever it just steps outside. So basically x is not defined outside the function. So it's cause the error. Think of it writing something on a classroom whiteboard. As soon as the class ends, the whiteboard is clean, the information is gone. So local variable works exactly the same way. Now let's talk about another example for global variable. Let's see will it work or not. X equals to 100 def. So print global x. So print outside x. Let's run it. So here notice something different. This time the variable x is being printed both time when we are calling it inside or even outside the function. So basically these are called global variables. Global variables belong to the entire program. It can be accessed either outside the program or inside of any functions or file. So here when we run the when we first click on run, the x is equals to 100, which is created as a variable x which contains 100 value. Now inside the function, when we look for x, the x is being x. When we look inside for x inside the function, the value of x is being accessed as the value isn't local, it's global. So it's print x global x equals to 100, and when we try to access it outside the function, it's again able to access the value of x. So here outside the printed, and basically when we were defining the value of x inside the function, the outside value will not work. So it will only print inside the function when it's inside the function. Now let's compare them. Small. Do I have the comparison? No, I don't have the comparison. So basically, a local variable is created inside the function. It exists only when the function exists only when the function is running. Cannot work outside the function. So and global variable is created outside every function. So global variable can be accessed outside every variable. Exists throughout the program. Can usually access multiple functions in professional programming. It's generally to use better to use local variables whenever possible. This makes functions more independent, reduces unexpected bugs, and keeps the program much more easier. Now that we have learned about how to create functions, pass data using parameters, return values, and understand variable scope, it's time to see how functions are used in real programs in Python. There are some two types of functions. Some are already created by Python, and some are created by us. Let's understand both. So basically, this is Python built-in function. Python comes with hundreds of ready-made functions built-in. They're called built-in functions. A built-in function is simply a function that Python already provides. You don't need to create them. You simply call it whenever you need them. Think of a built-in function is like an app already installed on your smartphone. You didn't build the calculator app, don't you? You simply open it, use it. Python works in the exactly same way. Let's look in some built-in function. The first one is the print. We already used this almost in every lesson. It's very simple. It displays the output on the screen. For example, print hello, so it just prints hello. After that, the second built-in function is the input. This keeps this function accepts the input from the keyboard. For example, and if we put input and enter your name, so basically it will ask the user to enter his or her name. So when the user will enter the name, it will be stored inside a variable. Next we have len, which is length function. The word stands for length. It tells us how many items are present. Basically, let me show you with a code. So for length, name equals to Python print another output here is 6, because the word contains 6 characters. Then another useful function is the type function. So type function is usually used when we want to know the data type, which type of data is being stored in the variable. Basically there we use the type function. After that, this range function. So the range function is being used in the loop. You remember in the for loop we have used the range function. So basically it is used in for loop, which helps us to generate a sequence of number. Now let's look at this max. So basically max is used to take out any take out the largest number from a sequence of number. So basically it is used in list. Similarly, the min works the same way. It's return the smallest number. Then comes the sum. So basically this sum works as it calculates the sum total arithmetic sum of the list. Got it. Next is the word we were doing user defined function. So the unlike built-in functions, these are written by programmers to solve a specific problem. Now let's do it using coding. Def is even if num is divided by 2 equals to 0, return even, return or print is even it. Now let's understand this carefully. This function returns one parameter, receives one parameter num, which is inside the functions. Now let's check this conditional is basically used when we are dividing any number by 0, and if it's 0, it's equals to 0, then the number is even. So functions returns evens, otherwise it returns odd. And now here we are calling it is even if it is even or not. So basically notice it's even, so it basically, so see how simple the programs here. Instead of writing the odd and even logic repeatedly, we can check using this user defined function for multiple programs. Now let's build something practical using we can do with this calculator. So basically try this yourself. Let me explain you what the code should be. So basically you need to create 4 functions, one for addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, and whenever we will need this we will call this. So I will show you one and you create the rest. Def add a comma b, return a plus b. Similarly you create all the others. I will do afterwards. Now let's me do the rest. Def divide A, comma B, return A divided by B, and we will just do the now, instead of writing, notice something interesting. Instead of writing one huge block of code, we created four small functions for each one. One for addition, one for subtraction, one for multiplication, and one for division. And this makes the program much easier to understand. Suppose when we need to improve the multiplication later, so we will just need to improve this much, and the other programs remain untouched. This is called modular programming. Each module performed one specific task. Modular programming means each module of code performs a different task. Now let's execute the program. uh, as I have already executed. Let me show you another coding part. Now let's do this. Here basically we need to calculate the area of rectangle, circle and triangle using the formula, and we will call them and do the calculation. Let me go for the coding. Def area rectangle L comma W, return L into W. What's happening here? Backspace and def area purple return 3.14 into R into R. Now print circle then print triangle comma area triangle, which will be having values as 10 and 6. Notice how this program is carefully organized. Each function solves one mathematical problem. The rectangle function calls for length and width. The circle uses the formula pi r a square, and the triangle uses the formula half base into height. So basically, when we can calculate on run, we will get answers as 50, 78.553975, and triangle as 30.0. Now imagine if you want to write all these formulas repeatedly throughout a large program. Instead we have created a simple reusable functions that we will call whenever we need it. That's exactly how real software programs are developed. So till today we have till now today we have done the Python built-in functions, user-defined functions. Then we have done with two coding questions, and that using modular programming. And then as our program become easier, the modular programming becomes much more essential. Now let's move to another important question, the factorial ones. Basically, what's a factorial is? So factorial is the product of all positive numbers from 1 to the number itself. Example, if we want the factorial of 5. Example, we want the factorial of 5. So for the factorial of 5, we will multiply 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the total product of all these 5 numbers will be the product factorial of 5, which is 120. So for that, we will go with the coding def factorial and fact equals to 1 for I in range 1 comma n plus 1 backed into I return back. After that, we will go with now let's execute this program and understand step by step. So first, we have created function. A variable n, which will receive the value from the user. And after that we have created variable fact, which we have initialized with 1. So basically, why we have initialized it with 1 is because if we multiply any number with other than 1, like if we multiply it with 0, then all the answers that we will get will be done at 0. So after that, the loop here becomes from 1 to till 6. Basically, why 6? So n plus 1, n is basically 5, and then n plus 1 will be 6. So that's how the it works. After that, during its first, second, third, and fourth, fifth iterations, the value becomes 120 from starting from 2, 6, 24, and then so on. And this is a great example of how we combine functions with loops to achieve the answer. Now let's talk about some common beginners mistake that beginners often does during coding. First mistake is forgetting about the parenthesis. So suppose we write only factorial and forgot about this parenthesis or parenthesis here, or just like think like this, we want to call this factorial, and we will forget the parenthesis here. If you forget this parenthesis, it will not work. It will cause an error. So simply always remember, parentheses are always required to call the functions during argument and during the parameter both times. After that, another mistake is the indentation error. So leaving spaces here, the spaces without these spaces, it will it will cause an indentation error. After that, there is another mistake when we forgot to call the function itself. So basically, we forgot this statement, causing the program to not execute. So basically, there what's happening. So basically, we have created the code, but we have forgotten to execute the code. So basically, that's cause the error. After that, forgetting the return statement. So if we forgot the return statement, the program will not get the functions to get the program will not get the value to get executed. So basically, without the value, the values will get incorrect. Since there is no return statement, and the program will get no value. After that, argument count mismatch. So basically, in this argument count mismatch, we define a variable like add a and b, and we forgot to send the value for b. We only send the value for a. This is called argument mismatch, and causing the error in this will lead to argumental mismatch error. After that, using local variable outside, and so another main error is when we define a function variable inside a function, but we forgot to, but we haven't defined it outside. So basically, if we try to use local variable outside the function, it will cause an error. Now it's your turn. Try solving some coding question. So basically, in this one, event number checking, you need to create functions to check if a number is even. If it's even, then return true. If it's false, then return false. As we have done this, I will not explain this one. We will go with a prime number check. So basically, prime number check is when a number is divisible by 1 and the number itself, it's called prime number. So basically, check for positive prime numbers, 5 positive prime numbers by yourself, go for yourself. Then there is to get a one maximum value from all three. Like I will pass you 3 values, 2, 5 and 6. You got 3 value, and in that 3 value you want to find that which value is greater. Here the 6 is value is greater, so you need to create this function also. After that, the fourth question is creating Celsius to Fahrenheit, which is easy, as we have done in the last lecture also. Now moving on to session summary, let's quickly revise what we have learned what we have learned today. So basically, we have learned how to create a function, what a function is, how to define the function using the word def. After that, we have learned how to call a functions, parameter, arguments, multiple parameters, then the return statement. After that, we have seen the difference between the print statement and the return statement. Then we have gone through the local variable, global variable, Python built-in functions, user-defined functions, and practical programs like calculators, factorials. Then we have done some common beginner mistakes. If we have understood today's lesson, now you know the one of the most important concept of programming. Almost every professional Python project uses functions extensively. And for the next episode, we will go with list and tuples. So in that, you will learn what lists are, how to store multiple values in one variable, what is indexing, what is slicing, useful list method, difference between list and tuples, real world examples, hands-on coding practice, and many other part. And after that, you will achieve a major milestone in Python journey, so don't miss it out. Thank you for watching this episode. If these lessons helped you understand the functions, make sure to practice every example on your own. Programming is a practical skill. That's more you write your code and better you will become. I will see you in the next episode. Until then, keep learning, keep practicing. Thank you.